Well, welcome to the cybersecurity panel. We've not done one of these before, so this will be making it up as we go. It'll be great. The reason we're doing this is because when we did the MSP panel last year, that some of you may have came to, it was almost all discussion of cybersecurity. So it was like, well, clearly people want to talk about cybersecurity, so why don't we just create a space for that particular topic. We'll also do the MSP thing tomorrow, which will not be a technical discussion. It will be MSP discussion without the technical aspect, so that Dean can still be. Oh, Dean's not even up here. That's right.
He delegated. My name showed up on here, so
that's right. Yeah.
I didn't know I was part of this.
Well, I was picking people. I was like,
they have the same accent.
Dustin, yeah, Dustin might be better. Right. Yeah. So these panelists are a lot of people that I've known for many years, some of them 20 years. So a lot of these are trusted people that I've known. I've done lots of projects with all sorts of these fine folks. So this is not a place to talk about, well, one MSP versus another. We're talking about cybersecurity. These guys have a lot of experience in this field. So it's just going to be kind of the Q&A thing. First off, I think it'd be helpful for each of you to kind of give a little bit of background, maybe even how long you've been around the CITN community, just to give us a little taste of what you do and why you're here. Your whole life story. It'd be great.
Want me to start?
Go for it.
My name's Dustin Phelps with Higher Ground under ACS Technologies. So I've been at ACS for 21 years. Big chunk of that was in corporate IT, and then when ACS purchased Higher Ground, Dean suckered me in over to the Higher Ground side of it, and so I still consider myself new to the CITN world, but I've known about it for a long time. But so this is my second time here, and glad to be here. Thank you, sir.
My name's Travis Phipps. I work for Enable Ministry Partners, and Enable has been proud to be a part of the Church IT Roundtable since, I guess, 2007, something like that. I've personally been involved since about probably 2008, so I don't know how many years that is. It's a lot. But I love, any of you who know me know I really love church, and I really love technology, and I get really passionate about both of those things, and so the opportunity to do this together, I just tell people this is what God built me to do. And for those of you that have that similar experience and mindset, there's nothing better than doing what God built me to do. So I'm honored to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
David Szpunar, I own Server 42, which is an IT service company, MSP in Central Indiana, and been part of the roundtable since it's called the roundtable. Second one ever, I think, in Kansas City. Was that if this is the 19th one, that was 18 years ago. If that math works roughly.
It would have been 2007.
Around there.
Yeah.
So close to the beginning, and much like Travis, I enjoy similar thing. Tech is fun in the church world. I worked at a church for 6 years before moving over to the vendor side, and it's been just a really amazing community. So glad to still be part of it. Contribute.
I'm Jonathan Smith. I wear two hats. I've been the director of technology at my church since 2001. I've been a part of this group, you said this morning, for 19 years. Next year's 20. We have not aged well. Anyway, in 2021, I expanded my ministry from one to many to get involved with MBS, which is another managed service provider that serves churches. So I kind of wear the two hats between serving other churches, but also having to serve my own on staff and dealing with the fun that we deal with in churches. But this is one of the best organizations I'm a part of in the course of a year in terms of church IT being done and with other folks who are doing church IT.
Hi, I'm Chris Harvey. I was just Googling. Jonathan said, are you Googling your bio? Well, he was.
Chris Harvey.
Yes. My first church IT roundtable was in Melbourne, Florida, and I couldn't remember what year. I thought it was when the last space shuttle launched. So that's what I was Googling, 2011.
Yeah.
So there you go. I work for Brotherhood Mutual Insurance Company, the non-MSP representative up here. So we insure churches all around the country, and I am the Chief Information Security Officer, as well as wear a couple other hats around support, data and analytics, and yes, infrastructure stuff.
Chris Green, I'm with Bema Information Technologies, based in Houston, Texas. Like others up here, also a MSP that is focused on serving churches. We've been doing that for 24 years now, and that was the mission from the beginning of our organization. It still is who we are. Like Travis said, being able to do what we feel called to do, while also getting to do it in that capacity, working with many churches, it's very rewarding. And being a part of this community has been a big part of my spiritual journey, as well as the support network that keeps the passion in what I do day to day and leading our team. I've gotten every bit as much out of this community as we've given to this community, which is why we continue to do it. Yeah, I was online, the early days of chatting 20 years ago, and then the first event that I was able to go to was in 2008. So it's been a long time.
Bring back your podcast, that's what he said.
Irish
Podcast. Well, Irish,
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I used to host the Church IT podcast for
Talk shoe.
Golly, a number of years. We got to episode 99, and then we never got to 100.
Do a 100
Yeah, I know. There's still a chance. There's still a chance we could do 100.
20th anniversary, happy 100th.
Oh, there you go.
Finally.
That's got some legs, yeah. After 10 years, we're finally back there. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed.
Same problems?
Yeah. So I guess the question before we go to the audience is, this is obviously kind of a no-brainer, but could you maybe describe a little bit about, how do I want to word this, the amount of cybersecurity things you have to help churches with? Is this, is this a fair question? What percent of your job is cybersecurity, trying to help, they got hacked, or trying to help them out? I don't know if that's a fair question. It's something along the lines of how often are you guys as MSPs, and of course, you guys are dealing with all that freaking time from the insurance side. What's that look like in your world?
For us, we're seeing several a year, I'd say, especially hacks or other issues. But we have seen it increase over the past few years for sure. So seeing, but also, working with customers on making sure that they are protected, make sure that, hey, they have the right stuff in place. A lot of what we're doing, but we are seeing that uptick, at least we are, and I imagine you guys are too. It is getting more and more prevalent in the church world of phishing attacks, MFA token stealing, those kind of things. So it's happening more and more on the church side.
We're not all going to answer all the questions. This would take forever.
I'd love to add to this. There was a conversation that came up in the Church IT Network. It was probably 3 or 4 months ago, and it really was the question of who here is working in cybersecurity. And my response to that was all of you, because our job as an MSP has shifted substantially in the time. In the early days, it was oh yeah, we make the printers talk to the computers, and we make sure Windows is patched. That was most of what we did, and the reality is now we are spending more and more time educating the people that we work with on how to protect the identities and how to protect things. We had to invest many tens of thousands of dollars into new tooling last year, because it reached the point where we were seeing, every single week we were seeing 3 or 4 business email compromises across our clients. And those could be something as simple as somebody misclicked something, or all the way to a full potential breach situation where we're calling an insurance provider to the table. And we had to invest in more tools to protect our customers and start doing that. And so it is every day for us. We've had to put full-time people every day who do nothing but deal with cybersecurity incidents at our customers. It's real, and we used to have to spend a lot of time trying to convince our church clients that they were potential targets, And that's not even a question anymore. You are high value targets, all of you.
Well, since Travis doesn't want to answer this, no. I count it in events and in dollars. So I'm in the everyday category. We get these all the time. The dollar amount is where it really gets frightening because, you know, what's the pain point? You know, we've done recoveries from 10,000 to 5 million.
Yeah.
What would your church do if you lost $5 million today? And I'm told that 80 to 90% of churches run with no contingency. So if you're running at that level, it's, you know, I ask church leaders, how much can I steal before this is worthwhile for you to invest in? I'll give most of it back. But no, it's a constant battle, and it's an everyday thing. And when you look at number of events and you tie that to dollars, it's something that baffles me. We still have to convince people that it's worth doing, because when you have to get the brotherhoods involved, it's going sideways fast.
You don't ever really want to talk to Chris.
Either one.
I'm fun.
Oh.
Yeah, I would say from an insurance perspective, you know, we have some cyber coverage. It's decent cyber coverage, but for most of the folks in this room, a church your size should have a standalone policy. You shouldn't be just relying on Brotherhood Mutual. It's, again, perfectly fine for vanilla, even up to a large church, but you guys often, if you've got a tech staff, you're bigger than large. The other thing that I would say is, yes, you need to be doing the basic blocking and tackling and, you know, good cyber hygiene. There's also just a lot of fraud, right? Technology is just enabling a whole lot of new fraud. And so that's where, you know, education of your folks comes in. We at Brotherhood Mutual, as well as your church staffs, right, want to trust people. We're a little more wired to do that. That's in our ethos. And that works just about everywhere, but not cybersecurity.
Thankfully, as MSPs, I mean, it's one thing for us to come and tell you you need to do things. You're like, oh yeah, you just want to sell us something, right? Obviously, we come at it in this community with a very different heart than that typically. Yeah, we want to make a living, but we're really telling you you need to do this. The insurance companies have become kind of our, you know, the people cracking the whip saying, oh, if you want to be able to afford your insurance policy, you need to be doing X, Y, and Z. That's the bare minimum, right? Those are the bare minimum things you do. There's probably more things that you need to be doing depending on the size of your organization. But they have been a big factor in moving that needle and protecting people better by just policies going up. You want to take a question? Go ahead.
For Brotherhood Mutual.
Yeah.
What are like the top situations where you would reject a claim? Like, the church doesn't do certain things or what?
Yeah, so business email compromise is big. How many people in the room do not enforce multi-factor authentication? And I asked it that way, in sort of in the opposite, so that you feel really very great.
That guy seems proud of it back over there.
Well, let me go further, and I'll stress it the way that we've run into on an insurance policy and we've seen legal action. Enforce MFA 100%. The answer in this room is probably nobody can raise their hand that they enforce it 100%.
But certainly, I mean, on your email, like that's, if you don't have multi-factor on your email, there's just not much excuse for that.
Right.
Yeah, and again, consider where the data is and what's most important. I think I want to mention two things that I think are great about the church community that you guys have going for you. But like in a cyber war that we're in, what you don't have going for you is that we're a small target. We're a church, they don't care. No, that's definitely not it. That's not it at all. What you have going for you is generally a little bit longer tenure than people in corporate jobs that are just moving from one thing to another. You have the opportunity to think longer term about the projects you're doing and the security steps that you're taking so that they'll, you know, have a life. And then the second thing is this group of folks. Talking to other people about, so what's working for you, that's just huge. it keeps you from chasing the everything because you can't. You can't do all the things that corporate America can just spend. You have to look at the biggest bang for the buck. And again, this group and thinking long term will help you with that.
I have a quick answer to that, and I would say this: the place where we see insurance companies deny claims is where the church lied to the insurance company. Normally by ignorance or omission or something like that, right? But if you're not the ones filling out the questionnaire about your cybersecurity stuff, you guys are already at a loss, because if your business or operations people are doing it, they are going to inadvertently lie to your insurance company. You don't want to find out when you file the claim that you lied to your insurance company.
Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, we definitely have MFA everywhere. Yep, check the box. And that, well, and you don't, then the insurance company's going to say, well, you said you did, and you didn't. So now we're covering you at a, for something that you didn't properly tell us about. So you want to be honest on your, some of those questions on those insurance forms are going to be very much like, oh, we aren't doing that, and we probably should be. But you still want to say that you're not doing that on the form, because that's what the insurance company is going to come back with from underwriting and say, we're going to cover you based on your risk, based on you saying you're doing these things. If you're not, they're going to be able to deny the claim after the fact. So make sure you're very truthful and explain any scenarios where it's like, oh, we have MFA everywhere, except here, here, and here for these reasons, so that you can't have an argument later about what it was that you meant when you have MFA, because if there's exceptions that are important in there.
I need to write that down. Be honest.
Yeah. Ignorance is not an
I am
excuse.
learning so much.
Be overly honest. Be overly forthcoming.
Ralph has been very patient with his hand for the next question.
All right, so we're all church IT. We all have congregations. Congregation person calls you and says, I got a letter from the pastor. They answered it. How do we help them report it when they got fraud?
Anybody?
Was it legitimately from the pastors being spoofed, or was it like, I am your pastor at gmail.com that's sending this for you?
Hi, I'm Pastor Tom, and I need you to help me with this thing. Can you go out and buy some cards and send them to me?
But is it from I am your senior pastor at gmail.com, or is it from your senior pastor?
There's always the letters like that are going out. We're always informing our own staff, beware of these letters. But now you have going out to your congregation as well. And so what we had a call come in, and I've known in the past where I basically stated, well, if they depending on how they got scammed, then they need to call their local police department, and then be able to call and have that police department fill out the departmental forms, and then escalate that to FBI if it's needed.
Yep.
State Attorney General.
Now, from your chair, I would argue the first thing you want to do as getting that call is make sure it didn't come from your house, right? Make sure it didn't come from your systems.
Right,
That
well,
you're not
whatever has Gmail tied to the back end of it.
Right, yeah, at that point, you kind of throw your hands up. But we had, in my area where my church is at, we had one that really disturbed me a little bit. There's a ton of information about all of us out there on the internet. People can correlate a lot of data. But this one was 3 different churches in my little town of Tomball, which is northwest of Houston. People who were members of the churches started getting text messages claiming to be from their pastor. These people were actually members of this church, and it was the correct pastor being correlated in that information. That's scary.
So how are you helping the congregation?
I mean,
how are we to help the congregation?
So I, as an MSP, again, this is the MSP hat, we are really beating the drum of educating our staff. I'm really starting to feel that we need to also be educating our congregation. I haven't solved in my head how to do that, but how do you, without just over-sharing or saying things that aren't really the job of the church, make sure that people know we're never going to ask for these things from you, but also not making it sound like you just had an incident, right? There's some line in there. I think we have to get ahead of that somehow.
Because whenever you talk about that as well, because of the fact that you have to be careful that it doesn't come from your organization.
Right.
At that point, then you're buying multiple domains with .com, .org, .edu, whatever, because your church name could be tied to a .com when you're a .org, and they say, oh, well, that came from Pastor.
Yeah.
So if I put my faith church hat on, we get those calls. We wrote it's a one sheet, it's a front and back. It explains how we operate, it answers the domain question, it gives some just general, it's written for my grandmother at that level of understanding. The backside of it then gives you details on, okay, if you feel you got one of these, we assure you it didn't come from anything we control. I don't own Google, I can't control people getting fake accounts. It's the education point. So if you report that, we give that out as just part of our congregational education, because this happened. We had a lady get $5,000 in the gift cards to the worship pastor before she realized it wasn't the worship pastor. Benevolence took care of the financial part, but we still gave her that sheet that said, here's how you can know. We've got to educate you because it'll happen again. I put my MSP hat on, I send those people the same form.
Yeah, there's really nothing technically you can do.
Right.
You know, it's all education, because, you know, we can put in filtering of all sorts for the church staff, because we control your email systems in many cases, and you control your email systems and can put the filtering in and warnings and stuff. There's nothing you can do with your client, your congregation members' home emails coming from a complete third party. Like there's really no technical option that you have to get in the middle of that relationship other than education.
We also found that there was a way to, because it was a Gmail account, Gmail has a fraud division that actually we could give their, how to submit to them that this was a fraud account. What I did was I just copied and pasted that. I sent it to our front desk secretary. I said, send this back out to them so that they can then follow those procedures to report them to Gmail that this was a fraud.
It took our senior pastor, had a really good pastor buddy of his. Their church got taken for $100,000 through fraud. For him to finally come to me, he's like, okay, from the stage, I'm going to say something. Let's figure out what that looks like. So basically, he spent part of the service saying, I want everybody to know, you will never get an email or a text from me or anybody on staff about anything money related. If we're asking for money, it's going to be through a campaign. And hopefully most people receive that.
I was going to suggest that. We're seeing more and more churches do that. My own church had to do that. We got hit by what Chris was talking about, where a lot of people in the congregation got the text from our pastor. And so he, from the platform, said, hey, I know this happened. This wasn't us. It would never be us. And we're seeing more and more churches start to do this more publicly, because it does boil down to education.
I'd love to see like a one sheet, like he was talking about, in your new attending class, in your new member orientation, like more of that. This is how we as a church formally will communicate to you, and these are the things that we will never do. That's part of, in corporate world, that's how we, educate financial people that they're never going to wire money, because we have external compliance that requires us to follow procedures. Well, we don't have that in the church world. How do we teach the congregation? So I think that's an area we can all develop something.
I'm curious, how many of you do some kind of cybersecurity awareness training for your staff? Volunteers? Congregation? 1, 2? Good. We're seeing more and more of that. 3. Sorry, Brandon. 3. But you saw how many did it for staff.
Yeah.
You saw how many did it for volunteers. You saw how many did it for your congregation. You offer so many other training things to your congregation. Why can this not be one of them? So this is not me shilling. We've been asked to do it for some of our churches. I'm sure these guys have as well. We're honored to be a part of that for you, to help offer that to your congregation.
Can I say maybe it's the cross section of the crowd that would choose the cybersecurity session, but I'm impressed how many of you actually even do it for your staff.
Yeah.
So, major props for that.
Well, the other thing you can do, as far as verification, if you do have that one sheet list or something, but even if you have a page on your website that addresses security concerns, and tell communicate to your congregation, if you have a request that comes to you, you can always go to our official website and make sure you type in the known good address to our website and click on the security page or something and review the current guidelines and what requests are being made, or keep things updated, so you can send people to one place to go and look to verify. Like, oh, I got this text message, let me just go to the church website and see if that's a legitimate text message or not. And it can be a way to keep that updated with legitimate versus non-legitimate as a potential option. But then you do have to communicate that, from the pulpit or from the bulletin, from email. Like, you've got to build the awareness that's there before it will actually be useful.
We do a community institute in the spring and the fall. It's an outreach program. People can come learn about all kinds of things from parenting to tech. One of the most popular sessions is one on just general cybersecurity. This stuff it's a 4-week class. This stuff all comes up, but what you find is it's a generation of people that don't know what to trust when they're at home. We all have the family Christmas where you're the person on tap because grandma has a question. Or that crazy uncle who clicks on everything and doesn't think anything is wrong. You know who I'm talking about. Some of you may be that crazy uncle. All that to say, good opportunity for outreach in your community to provide some tools for inside and outside the walls of the church.
Yeah, so I'm just curious, practical stories of how, and I'm not talking about the gift card story, I'm talking about the $100,000, $1 million stories. How did it start? And then how did you guys trace back the source to remediate it?
I'll be bold and I'll just say this. Tomorrow? When is it? Today? Tomorrow? There is a session called Spooky Stories, Real Church Cybersecurity Incidents. I'm presenting it. I don't know when it is.
Oh, good.
I'm pretty sure it's tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow. So there's some great ones in there. Dustin, he's got one. That'd be great.
I'll just say that the majority of them I've ever seen that reach those levels, other than an actual encryption event and being extorted, right? But outside of extortion, just pure fraud, there are almost always campaigns to get in and trick the wiring of things that would have otherwise been legitimate. Probably the biggest ones that I've seen stopped were usually during construction, because those are usually very large numbers and they're being transferred regularly. And so very similar to what you see in the corporate world. That's usually where we see
And lots of subcontractors.
Yeah.
What percentage of them, just this is something that's probably made up percentage, would you say is like, if you, instead of dealing with this type of email, you used our internal forms system to do that, how many of those do you think, what percentage of people do stop versus?
Can you repeat the question for people who didn't hear?
Yeah, so he was asking if instead of things like that being communicated over email, if they've been used through some sort of forms for change. I think most of those things they got messed up externally. So imagine you've been paying a vendor and they got a business email compromise. They didn't know it. And then for the last 2 months, you've been wiring money to the wrong place. So now simultaneously, you're out this money, but you also have a vendor who's telling you, you haven't been paying us, why haven't you been paying us? Now you're in a really rough spot. You're calling your insurance company, there's a forensic investigation, and whose fault is it? That's usually what we've seen.
I'm from Perimeter Church, we love Brotherhood, thank you.
I'll tag onto that and just say we see the business email compromise thing hit both the church directly, like your person's account is compromised, but we also see a lot more where it's the outside vendor who has the compromised account. Either party being compromised can lead to the loss of funds.
That's why we recommend verifying, like especially anytime finances are involved, verify via second known good method when any large sums of money are involved. Have a documented process that you have to follow, but say any time a vendor changes an account number or payment destination, that you call the known good number and say, hey, this email I got that says I should send this payment somewhere else, is that correct? Like that should just be a process in your accounting department.
Known good numbers. We got a phone call from the known good number.
Yeah?
The bank.
Yep,
Yeah.
the numbers can be
Verified
spoofed.
phone number, came in finance.
Oh, I have a way better story than that. I have a way better story than that. 2:30 tomorrow, by the way. Elementary B. Like if you think your bank being spoofed phone number was bad, come tomorrow.
I will say we have seen, and this was several years ago even, we had a commercial customer where somebody tried to add themselves onto the customer's bank account as an authorized signer by emailing.
Quit stealing my thunder.
9:30 tomorrow.
Keep going, Steve.
No, I didn't know you had one too. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
they sent email attachments with driver's licenses trying to get it added. And it was only caught in this case because the bank literally called the head finance guy at the company and was saying, hey, are you really trying to add these people to your bank account? And nope, they were not actually. So like
Well,
this
I
is
think
just
what
a
got our finance lady is the number that she would call to verify was the number that she got a call
right.
from.
Yeah, but
So-
don't ever trust
You know
caller ID.
that that's different, right?
Well, I didn't. Yeah.
Placing the call versus receiving the call, very, very different.
Yeah.
Never trust caller ID.
Caller ID is still 100% spoofable. There's nothing to trust about caller ID.
And it worked.
There's, in theory, we're getting to a day where that will be less true, but it's not. We're not there today, and we won't be for a while. So
Thinking it's
never, never trust caller ID.
It wasn't even, it was even the phone number actually, not even just caller ID, it was the actual phone number.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's part of it. Yeah, the number and the name are both.
I make calls with
completely
David all the time.
Yep. Very simple. Come to our booth. I'll show you.
Well, we know now.
All right, Dustin has a story. to
Yeah,
tell.
so our most recent one was literally the scammer went, they just changed, they went and bought a new domain, changed one letter in the domain, went to the church's website, found the finance lady, pulled the pastor or someone else's information, sent an email in from that fake domain to the finance person to move $250,000, $300,000 over.
Yep.
And that easy. So just one little letter in the domain, they're getting that crafty now.
And back to the original point,
Yeah.
the churches are a direct target, not a target of convenience. We've seen
Say that again.
multiple times where somebody has done a year of recon to lead up
Yeah.
to a pay.
There was a hand over here.
Another practical one, the last time that we had phishing emails to the congregation, our MSP said it was probably through social media. Can you speak to social media part? Is that true or valid or?
Yeah. To Chris's point earlier, it is scary how well data can be correlated these days to figure out what church you go to, who your pastor is. Is it social media? Yeah, probably. Was the
piece of
CHMS
data.
hacked? Yeah, maybe. Right? But I mean, at this point,
You don't know.
what does
You
it
don't know.
matter how they figured it out? The point is your data is out there and the correlation is happening.
And AI is making it easier.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what it was begging me not, figure out where it came from.
Yeah.
I guess it's-
You'll drive yourself crazy and you will never fully understand and get to the real bottom of it.
Well, and more
That's my
importantly, you
advice.
can't undo it either. Right?
That's
The
true
data-
too.
the
Even
data's
if you
already
figured it
there.
out, how are you gonna stop it?
Yeah.
So you have to
All takes is one
focus your
mistake.
energy where you can make a difference. And figuring out how they've correlated the data, you're never gonna change that. That's done.
Yeah, there's a whole security industry around open source intelligence, which is basically gathering freely available information. It's companies that do penetration testing to test companies. Well, the first step is what information can we gather about the company so we know how to attack them. And the same attackers do the same thing, which is why the testers do the same thing to simulate. It's how can we find your domain names, your websites, your staff list on your page, your LinkedIn profiles of your employees, your volunteers who are posting on social media, what church they attend, maybe even inviting their friends. Like they might be inviting their friends to come to church, post on Facebook. Well, an attacker sees that, is sucking it into their AI that processes and says, all right, here's the list of people we can get online that are from this church. Let's go after them with all their social media contact and look up their phone numbers in the databases. I mean, Kevin Mitnick famously would buy his own social security number. He's a famous hacker. On stage, he would literally buy access to his own social security number on a security website for like $3. It was like, oh yeah, my social security, I just go buy it right there. And so, yours too, are just as easy to get was the point.
It's tricky because we say that we are, obviously we want to protect our people's data.
Right.
And they put trust in us to do that. And we can't say why,
Yep.
wiped out how they're getting it.
But you'll drive yourself crazy if you
Jump
try to
over to
focus on
Jared
that.
also.
So it sounds like there's a lot of fraud, exploits, phishing, social engineering. How much of that has grown, I guess, maybe not grown, but do you see physical exploits or patches, exploits, whatever, like people getting in, not the right person, but through an unpatched device or through that? I know that used to be, that was how people were getting in, but now it's a lot of social and phishing and whatnot. Is there physical, is that still, I know it's a big concern, but is that as big a concern as social is now?
So I'll jump in first. Business email compromise is our highest risk, and it's not because of the email, it's because quite frankly, that's our identity, right? And so the most important thing that we have to protect is the identity score of things. So we want to tie everything back to it. The easiest way to be compliant and know that we're shutting somebody's access down is if it all ties back to their Intra ID or their Google ID, right? Or Jump Cloud or whatever product you're using. Well, now all I have to do to successfully get access to all of your things is get into there. And so if I'm protecting that, we're making up statistics here, but that's like our 80%, right? Beyond there, well, if I successfully get into there and now I manage to get a foothold into your network, what happens next? That's where that becomes a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I still need to be patching. Yes, I still need to be concerned about what's exposed externally. In a cloud-first environment, we don't have very many open ports on our firewalls anymore. We don't host things in the church anymore. But we're putting some things in Azure or AWS or Google. We've got our CHMS systems. If you're in Rock or Ministry Platform, you're managing a thing that's holding a ton of PII. We have to protect it. But you've got to be on top of your patching. You've got to protect things. You've got to segment things so that if somebody gets a foothold onto somebody's laptop, your biggest risk of exposure is whatever's on that laptop, because it still is a risk. But we are definitely seeing the highest risk is identity and DNC.
What tools are you guys seeing used out there that's like kind of competitive? I know a couple years ago, like Iron Scales was like this new hot thing that was like being recommended. Do you guys have any like cool tools that are coming out or out now that are used to combat a lot of this stuff?
I don't want to hog it.
There's a lot of solutions. I mean, Iron Scales is still very popular.
Now it's
and
the
strong.
old hot thing.
No.
It's the old hot thing, but it's still a thing.
It's still really good.
It's still good. There's competitors have come up for sure. There's a whole industry around it because of the exact thing, Chris was saying. It's all about identity. It's all about business email compromise, and so that's where a lot of the funding is in the security industry to go and protect those things. So there's a new solution that pops up every day. A lot of them are around proactive monitoring because it doesn't really matter how much security you add, somebody will figure out a way to get around it, or somebody will click on the thing they shouldn't at some point. And so being able to detect those things quickly and remediate them before they become big problems and huge losses is important. So I think I would guess that everyone up here who's an MSP is working with a either internally and or a third-party provider of some sort that is doing active security monitoring on usually a 24/7 basis that's saying, hey, here's the logs of what's happening in all of these Microsoft accounts. Is anything suspicious going on? Is anything out of the ordinary from a behavior standpoint? Are there logins from locally and overseas at the same time, or over VPNs, or are mailbox rules being added that look suspicious and are either alerting the MSPs or the organizations, or are actively blocking the account until we can verify that is a known good thing and not a bad thing. And we catch, I would say, our provider probably catches at least a few a month of actual compromised accounts that they've proactively, even with all the security stuff we've layered on top. So I would say, yes, the filtering tools, but also the active monitoring, because they're not perfect.
I would just tack onto that. If you're not familiar with the NIST cybersecurity framework, it's a very, very simplistic model. There's 5 phases or pillars. You identify everything you have to protect. You protect it, right? So antivirus and iron scales and all the things to try to stop the threats. But then something can still and will still happen. So at the point of boom, which is what cybersecurity experts call it, then you want to be able to detect that it happened. You want to react to that or respond to that. And then, of course, eventually you need to be able to recover. That's the 5th pillar. So if you think about identify, detect, protect, respond, and recover, you want to be investing in all of those at some level. And so if you look at one of those and you go, man, I'm not really doing any of the active monitoring, that would be the detect that he talked about. You probably are hopefully doing some identification, but maybe not a lot. Yeah, that would be my advice, is make sure you're investing in all of the areas of.
And I'll mention, NIST just came out with a new small business framework for security that isn't as all encompassing as their big cybersecurity framework officially, that is geared towards smaller organizations to be able to do the basics a little bit more easily, and was written in collaboration with a lot of people in small business so that they can make the first steps. So if you haven't done some of this stuff, it could be a good place to look at first to get on your
back there.
So.
Yeah, I was just curious how many people in this room are actually using an ITDR solution like what you're describing, because I think a few years ago we overput confidence, we put too much confidence in MFA, like it was gonna just solve everything.
Yep.
I feel like ITDR is the next tool we need to invest in, but it's being underinvested in.
So ITDR is?
Identity theft detection and response, which is very similar to.
Yeah, so it's the active monitoring of the identity that these guys were talking about, yeah? So Tony's question is, how many of you are investing in an ITDR, like a detect and respond solution for identity?
There's tons of out there. I mean, across the tables here. I mean, I know we utilize a tool called SAS Alerts internally. We manage it as automated response. I believe Enable, you guys use Huntress.
We use
Yeah,
Blackpoint Cyber.
Blackpoint Cyber. There's a ton of products in this space.
And
It makes a big difference. We went from being in react mode all the time to catching things within 5 to 15 minutes when you have time to shut it down before it's an actual need to go into response mode.
Often before data's been stolen.
Yes.
I have a question about the R, the last R, the
recover?
recover.
Yeah.
What do you mean by practice or prepare for that?
Have you ever taken your backups and tried to restore them and become operational again from them? Somebody laughed. I want that to be on the recording in case it wasn't there. Somebody laughed.
So obviously you have an incident response plan would be really what you're wanting, right? The ability to have a plan before you have to use it. Well, a plan that's never been tested isn't a plan, right? And so first step is have a plan, and then it's test the plan. And then in the business world, I mean, a lot of times the insurance companies aren't asking us if we have an incident response plan. They're saying, do you have a business continuity plan? Well, that's bigger than us. That's not an IT focused plan. That's the entire church. How is the church going to deal with an incident? How's the business going to deal with an incident? The IT disaster response plan is just a piece of that puzzle. But you guys need to know what your plan is in a response. And having that is a very big step in maturity in your cybersecurity.
And where in that plan are you pulling all these other people in? So,
Right.
hey, for us, we have level 1, level 2. Okay, this is a level 3 incident. We know we need to pull in this. How are you going to communicate to your congregants? Hey, we've had this issue. When are you going to put that out? When you pull the insurance company in. For us, corporately, we go through a tabletop every year and running our plan. Every year we run our plan. And even this year we found some things we weren't covering our employees like we should have. We're going to fix that. So running through that plan, especially some insurance companies require it. So make sure you have that plan.
I was going to throw out something we found incredibly helpful if you're in a situation where maybe the buy you can't go forward because you can't get leadership to invest in it, is do your tabletops and have them be a part of the tabletop.
Oh yeah, that's great.
In our tabletops, everything from the C level all the way down. Dean's in it every year. Our CTO's in it every year, all the way down to the PC technician. So everyone in between is in that tabletop.
If you really sit down and do an incident response plan and look up some of the frameworks, you realize that everybody's at the table.
Yeah.
Everyone. That's a fantastic piece of advice.
Kudos to you that you got them to come to the table.
Yeah.
The auditor kind of demanded it. Hey, use whatever resource you have to help bring that about. Because at the end of the day, how you get funding for it, how you get buy-in on how you're going to respond to it, right? I mean, because churches make some hard decisions sometimes to do things differently than the way a business would. As somebody said it earlier, they alluded to the fact that they're trusting us with their knowledge and their information. They're trusting us with the money that they gave to us. Trust is the biggest thing that churches actually have to lose. Yeah, money, okay, but trust is the biggest thing because that's what we transact on all the time. We're asking them to trust us, right? So, yeah, that's great. There's a question in the back.
Yeah, I would kind of dovetail onto the recovery part. I think it's very important to go through the exercises so that you, one, can have realistic expectations. Because, when you're in the middle of it, the senior pastor, how long is this going to take? Well, you've never done it. You have no idea. You cannot set expectations. And you can't have a business continuity plan at all. if you don't know how long all this, and you don't have priority.
Yeah, prioritization, yep. Recovery time objective, recovery point objectives. Matt had a question over here.
So how do you figure out what is a valid tool? So
Just ask me and I'll tell you.
it's the thing, so I've had several employees who individually have had their things compromised, not necessarily their work accounts, but we reset all those and everything. And the first thing they go is what they've seen on TV, and they go sign up for LockLock. Which we all know is pretty shady, okay? But also, I get phone calls multiple times a day with my name and numbers on the website, which I advise we should do. But I get calls every day. We've got the latest IDBCPR thing that you need to have.
Yeah, you do.
How do you help determine what is valid and what is valid now? Because look, McAfee used to be a great solution. Maybe some of us recommended back in the day, but we wouldn't now. So how do you determine what is valid?
This community is a great start. Obviously, we as MSPs have our own 2 cents because we have a breadth of experience across organizations and across ministries, but this community is a great place. When somebody's trying to sell me the oceanfront property in Arizona, I hop on the community. There's people in this room that I'll ping and even say, have you heard of this? What are your thoughts of this? Why reinvent the support wheel? I mean, if David's already figured out it stinks, I don't need to figure that out again. And all I gotta do is buy him a Starbucks. So this community is a great way to get those things vetted at a practical application level.
And I would add that we're very open in telling you what we use and what our experience is, but sometimes we have to make choices of a product because it's multi-tenanted and it does things that we as MSP needs or specifically need. And so if you were our customer, that would be the one you're getting. But if you're going and getting it yourself, we might give you a completely different recommendation. But always feel free to ask us. We love to give to the community.
I'm biased, I work with Matt, so, and he knows this, but to that point, I would also add, it behooves you, if you have a partnership with an MSP, that you really should talk to them.
Yes.
Because to the point that Chris just made, you may pick the tool that is perfect in your scenario, but if you need our assistance in helping to support it, that may be a challenge, right? And so yes, lean on this community for sure. Yes, talk to your partners, whoever they happen to be, because if you want them a part of that puzzle, you want to make sure that you're all on the same page. Sure. Like all y'all shot our hands up.
Yeah, I think that we have
So a comment and a question. So a little bit of self-promotion. There'll be a 10 talk later today about what to do when your church gets hacked. Notice I said when, not if.
Yep.
Because the reality is, and our company runs a global SOC, churches here in the United States are, for the most part, low-hanging fruit at this point in time. There's a lot of people, very global, very vulnerable, and open to spear phishing attacks, spam emails, smishing, any other issue you want to pull out of these guys. Question to the panel. We've kind of translated or transferred from a zero trust, trust but verify approach to security to a never trust, always verify approach in the last few years. Do any of you have any comments on that, and how your MSPs or even maybe your unnamed customers are handling zero trust in today's environment?
I mean, I would argue that most people never really reached what zero trust was supposed to be in the first place. So, I mean, adding more on top of that, like there's a lot of really good information and goals out there, but I would argue that it's very rare to actually see an organization that is actually fully implemented zero trust in the originally defined, this is what zero trust actually is supposed to be form. I do think it shifted a little bit more, like Chris was saying, to identity. And so if you can focus on protecting, I mean, really you have to inventory what you have. Where is your data? Where is your most important stuff stored? And then what identities do you have that are being used to access, especially that more important data, and protect those things with the highest level of security and the least amount of trust in terms of continual access? Because really you can't, it is very difficult, almost impossible to protect everything you have all the time. There's too many different things that go wrong. You know, you can't protect every last volunteer account that might or might not get security training and so forth, but you can do a better job of protecting the more important things. And first that comes with cataloging what that is and understanding it, and then it comes with protecting the identity and the access to that stuff. So I don't know that zero trust is a great goal, but I doubt that anyone here, up here or out there, is actually at a point where we would actually say, yes, we have fully implemented zero trust, we're ready for the next thing. It's unlikely.
I don't trust you.
Building on that, in the church world, we all come from, again, a couple of us have been doing this for more than 20 years, specifically in the church world. Well, yeah, that's the server over there in the corner, all the files on it, and everybody has access to everything. That's our baseline. That's where we work from in the church environment, right? And so if you're securing the identity needs to determine what you have access to. And that's what, in the church world, we could do a lot better job of, is driving that concept of saying, hey, there is zero reason that anybody outside of the children's ministry needs access to children's ministry files. That's a weird concept, but thinking of segmenting and restricting, that makes it a lot easier when you go into incident response mode. It gets a lot easier when you fill out your insurance questionnaires of here's the things that we do to make sure that if Susie's account gets compromised, we know exactly what they potentially could have gotten instead of less. And so again, to kind of the point, zero trust in what the corporate world defined it. A lot of that was driven back to that identity, and I'm logged in and I'm on this computer, I'm logged in as me, and therefore I can see these 4 things. Well, we didn't even get close to that here. Most businesses never got there. So we just need to be doing better today than we did yesterday.
Well, and think about not keeping information you don't need as well. I know I have a particular, I won't name the church, but there's a client who's going through the process right now. One of our clients, we have several churches that are clients, is going through the process of moving background check systems from the one they've been using for many years to a newer one. And that old system basically dumped the results of the background check into the internal church database, and it sat there for years and years and years. I'm probably in it. So there's this, their new provider is not going to do that. They're going to say, give a result back. Here's the result of this background check. Pass, fail, just enough information to make a decision on the volunteer. And then that information is not being kept by the church. Why does the church need all of the details of any of that information? It's just there to be stolen. There's no value to the organization to maintain that data. And there's a ton of data in probably every single person's church management system here, and email system and other systems that is just sitting there for ages and not actually being reviewed or disposed of.
I will tell you, I get deposed frequently for clients and for my own church, because we've been sued a few million times. If you're doing ministry in this world, you're going to get sued. But you can't be held accountable for stuff you don't have. So I've been under oath with insurance companies. Do you have this? Why don't you have this? And it's amazing how much disappears when I, with integrity, say we don't have it. So churches keep everything. I mean, Chris said you have access to everything because you still have everything on the server in the corner with flat creds. So yeah, there's something to be said for on the cybersecurity posture, cleaning up what you have and not keeping things so that you can, with integrity, say, Your Honor, I don't have that. You know what the judge says? Okay, that part's dismissed. You got to chuck that part out and go on to the next thing. So there's some strategy you can bring to the organization on risk management when it comes to why are we keeping all of this beyond, man, my background check probably was a fail. I hope they never find out why.
Well, it's not really a tech thing either. That's a leadership thing in many ways.
Yeah, like tell techs,
and it helps with when somebody does steal contact info, suddenly you're emailing these members from 90 years ago that hate your guts.
Did you say honeypot?
Define a policy, follow your policy.
Yeah.
Is there anything we need to be doing proactively with our vendors, our CHMS or background check provider, to think that they are protecting our data? In a lot of cases, this is their only business. They only run background checks, but they're hosting all this PII. If they get compromised, our members are going to look at us.
Yeah, 100% they are.
So
my biggest advice is don't assume that they're doing what you think or hope that they're doing.
Right.
Ask them those questions and make them give you their answers. At least get a SOC to it.
And say, yes, we've got it all covered.
Yeah, ask for evidence.
If you were in the financial market you would be being pushed to do vendor responsibility surveys, surveying all of your vendors to make sure they're complying with the same rules that you have to comply with. We don't have that, right? So we get that in lots of little things. When we touch credit cards, now we have to deal with PCI compliance, right? So there's little bits and pieces that we do. But one of those things, he threw the term out, there is a Chris.
SOC 2.
So a SOC 2 report is something that we frequently have to provide for all the products that we use to people who have been asked for them by their other vendors. That is an easy report. If your vendor will give you their SOC 2 report, while you may never read all the details in it, but you can, the fact that they provided one and it was current as of this year, which means that they are going through a process where they are reviewing that annually and updating that report. And that already puts them ahead of a ton of other vendors.
And it's being externally audited and tested too to get that report.
They had to create do an initial audit and then have a plan and be improving every year and documenting what they're doing.
And SOC 2 is great. It's not the only option.
No, it's a basic.
But it is a very common expectation.
And it provides defensibility to you if you make a choice with a vendor based on relying on what they're saying. Yes, they may fail. They may not be doing what they're saying, but from a liability standpoint, this is not legal advice because I'm not a lawyer. Keep in mind that if you are relying on a third party who has told you something, that's a different scenario than you blindly trusting them saying, well, we thought they were doing a great job. Like that's a different position to be in from a confidence and responsibility standpoint. Whether you get into legal or insurance or any of those other scenarios that we're going to make them into play.
Same thing, but ask your vendors. I mean, we drill all of our vendors and they go through a vulnerability questionnaire our risk team does before we bring any vendors on. So yeah.
And ACS sits an interesting seat that they are a vendor also.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, we've made them give information to our clients to attest what they're doing and protect the data that they have.
So we go through full PCI compliance every year because it's our giving solution. So we have to go through PCI ROC. We're actually doing it here in a month. It stinks, but it's part of it. So.
I think there was a question up here.
Probably the last one.
That gentleman
2 minutes.
had his hand up for
Okay.
a while.
All right.
Not sealed right there.
Me?
Yeah.
Where's the line for y'all between living here, hearing everything that y'all saying up there, everything the sky's falling, and being wise and proactive in your approach?
Yeah, to me that comes with you're there and you're there today and you hope to be there 5 years from now and 10 years from now. So it's thinking through, it's weighing and it's just prioritization. So making sure that every couple months, a couple times a year, you're having sit-down conversations with, if not IT coworkers or your MSP or people in this room or a combination, to say, this is what I'm doing so far, these are the things I'm worried about, what are you guys worried about, what should I tackle next? And if you're just looking at what should I tackle next, that's going to provide the most value, the most increase in security, then that's good. And then it really is the basics. I mean, think about do I have good backup, just in case the worst happens? Do I have good identity protection? That means good onboarding and offboarding, maybe even an audit of identities, but you're protecting that, identity is the new perimeter now. And then, yeah, it's basic patching. You don't have to be a pro at this stuff, but think what is exposed, what's not, and where am I most vulnerable?
Keying on your fear word, there's a reason why none of the people who are up here have ever in this community come here and tried to tell you stuff, sell you things by scaring you. I promise you, if we stand up here and tell you something scary, it's because it's really scary. We don't believe in trying to trick people into doing things. So really, he's hitting the key points there is do your patching, retire things that are no longer supported, protect your identity. Don't leave data out where it can be accessed. You don't have to focus on fear. It's have a process involved.
And we believe in a holy God at some point.
Right.
I mean, if theology doesn't layer into fear here, I think we're missing it because we work for churches, and if we can't recognize the higher power that's got this, no fish he didn't figure out before it happened. The Trinity wasn't surprised by AI. I mean, all of this stuff. I really hope we have that foundation.
I'll shill for just a second and say, if you come by our booth or hit our website, I don't care. We put together a cybersecurity checklist that's just the common things that Chris was talking about just a second ago. Have something that you're tracking and kind of monitoring your progress against. That's my best advice. Pick a security framework, use the NIST, use our checklist. I don't care what you use. Have something to where you're going, okay, right now I can check 5 boxes, and next year my goal is to have checked 7 boxes, or whatever. Know and be able to demonstrate that you are making progress against it. That's my best advice.
It's the same thing with us. I mean, come by our booth, we've got a go scan it, you can take a survey right there. And we find most churches aren't prepared for security. They're not.
Yeah, the real thing is it's not fear, it's risk. Look at what the highest risk that you have is, and see if you can affordably address it to reduce the risk to a more reasonable level. It's risk management. You can approach it from a fear standpoint because it can be scary if you look at the things that can happen. But you can't prevent all of those things from happening. But you can say, okay, we've got 30 things that we should be doing, we could be doing, there's all these risks. What's the number one thing that's the biggest risk that we're doing the least about? And can we spend a little bit of the budget now to reduce that risk by the largest amount we can? And do that, and then do that again next year. And so you're just eating out a little bit, because I guarantee you everyone here could go completely bankrupt. Churches, businesses, everyone, by spending so much money on security to guarantee that they're secure. But you also will not be functional. You won't be able to do ministry. You cannot spend all of your money on security. That's not the point. The point is to do a little better, because you always can do a little bit better and find the best bang for the next buck.
Your goal is at least to have that door locked. Right? We've all probably had customers, the door is wide open, right? We have to go in there and close it, but if you have that door at least locked for them, hey, you don't have that server that's from 1998 still out there running out there on a port 80 or 3389, and you just got it wide open for them. Just be smart, patch.
Be smart. That's a great way to end it.
Yeah.